All right, the Indiana Fever face some very, very big decisions moving forward. Okay, with the new CBA, everything has changed. There's a lot at stake with every single move. One bad signing can alter your roster completely in terms of the supporting cast you are able to get around your stars like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston.
Right there. That's the panic setting in. Because the Indiana Fever just realized they might have built a championship contender only to watch it fall apart due to basic math. With the new CBA rules kicking in for the 2025 season, the salary cap dynamics have completely flipped, and the Fever are staring down a nightmare scenario where they literally cannot afford to keep both their star veterans and their first-round draft picks. This isn't about being cheap. This is about the money not existing.
And one thing to truly consider is with how much the minimum is going up for first-round draft picks, is it worth even keeping your first-round picks if they're not going to be super high and they're not going to be impact players right away because they're going to be getting $500,000? Or would you rather keep veterans like a Kelsey Mitchell, etc.? We got to break this whole thing down because the Indiana Fever are in a situation to where they might not even have enough money to sign their first round pick if they give Kelsey Mitchell a.
Here's the problem that's keeping Kelly Krauskopf up at night. Under the new collective bargaining agreement, first-round rookie salaries have exploded. We're talking about picks in the back half of the first round, picks 10 through 12, now commanding nearly $500,000 in year one. Compare that to the old system where a 10th pick might make $80,000. That's a 600% increase eating into your salary cap. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell is hitting unrestricted free agency, and she's earned every dollar of a max contract after averaging 20 points per game alongside Caitlin Clark. The Fever have approximately $4 million in total cap space to work with. Do the math. Max contract for Mitchell, rookie scale deals for Clark and Boston already on the books, and suddenly you're looking at maybe $300,000 left to fill out an entire roster. That's not a supporting cast. That's a skeleton crew.
Would be looking to do. I would be looking to core and move Kelsey Mitchell for assets. I believe Kelsey Mitchell is a max contract player. I do believe she is. I believe she can get a long-term max deal elsewhere. I don't believe the Indiana Fever should be the ones giving it to her, but she is too great of a player, too great of an asset to get nothing back in return. That is bad business. That would be a bad front office move. You don't let a star walk out of your door for nothing. You make sure you get something in return, and I believe that's what the Indiana Fever should do. But I am not the Indiana.
And this is where the core designation becomes the most valuable chess piece on the board. The new CBA pushed back the elimination of core tags until 2027, but only for players with 6 years or fewer of service time. Kelsey Mitchell qualifies. She has exactly 5 years in the league, which means the Fever can core her, prevent her from hitting free agency, and then execute a sign-and-trade to recoup assets instead of watching her walk for nothing. That's the smart play. That's the business decision that protects your franchise's future. But it's also the move that tells your second leading scorer, a player who stuck with this team through 4 losing seasons before Caitlin Clark arrived, that she's trade bait. The optics are brutal. The necessity is undeniable.
For first-round draft picks is going up so much and absorbing much more of the cap with the pay raise. You're in a situation where, hey, if I'm drafting 8th, 9th, 10th, and I'm not getting an impact rookie, is it worth it? Is it worth me not having a certain veteran level player that can help me win versus me having a rookie? Now, I still think rookie contracts, rookie deals, you want as many talented young players as you can, even though the price has.
Now let's talk about what the Fever could actually get in a Kelsey Mitchell trade, because this is where franchise-altering decisions get made. You core her in January, which gives you exclusive negotiating rights. Then you work with Mitchell's agent to identify teams she'd accept a long-term deal with. Probably Phoenix, Seattle, maybe Minnesota, if they clear cap space. Those teams know they're getting a proven 20-point scorer who just showed she can play off-ball next to a dominant primary handler. That's worth a lottery pick, maybe 2 first-rounders if you're negotiating with a desperate contender. But here's the alternative scenario that makes this complicated. What if the Fever just pay her? What if they give Kelsey Mitchell a 3-year max deal worth approximately $650,000 per season, keep the band together, and sacrifice their 2025 first-round pick by trading it for future assets or veteran minimum contracts? That keeps your championship window open right now, with a backcourt that already proved it can score on anybody. The risk is you're betting everything on the next 2 seasons, and if it doesn't work, you've got no draft capital and an aging roster with no financial flexibility.
Courtesy of the Bleacher Report as well. Now, what I want to do is I want to go down to the Indiana Fever pick, right? Because it says here that the Indiana Fever could take Tanaya Latson with the number 10 pick. I think that would be a really good pick. She's very similar to Kelsey Mitchell, smaller, undersized, scoring 2 guard. Okay, Tanaya Latson was a top 5 pick prior. She probably was a top 3 pick, top 4 pick prior to this season starting. But, you know, South Carolina is a guard. Don Staley's a guard killer. I don't know why Tanaya Latson went there. He was averaging 28 a game at Florida State, and you left to go to play at South Carolina, and it plummets your draft stock some.
And this is where the draft analysis gets fascinating, because the 2025 class might actually make the decision easier. Look at who's projected to be available at pick 10, where the Fever are currently slotted. Tayanisha Latton from South Carolina, undersized scoring guard, who averaged 18 points at Florida State before transferring and watching her draft stock crater in Don Staley's system. She's essentially a Kelsey Mitchell clone. Smaller frame, shoot-first mentality, questionable defense. You're paying her $480,000 as a rookie to potentially give you 70% of what Kelsey Mitchell gives you at $650,000. Or maybe Flag Johnson falls to 10, which seems unlikely, but stranger things have happened. 6'1" combo guard from LSU, who played alongside Angel Reese. More playmaking than Mitchell, better size, younger legs. But she's also coming off that messy situation where her family got involved in public disputes with LSU's coaching staff. Do you really want to bring that dynamic into a locker room that just spent an entire season dealing with external drama around Caitlin Clark?
On a rookie deal, or would you rather just keep Kelsey Mitchell? Because if you bringing back Caitlin, AB, Michaela Timpson, they're under contract. Okay, you sign Sophie, you sign Lexi, you give Kelsey Mitchell a max. You're going to look to bring other veterans in. You might not even have enough money to sign your first-round draft pick if you're the Indiana Fever. This is why we have to think about these things. They're going to have to work some cat magic. They're going to have to be smart. They're going to have to get some quality veterans on minimum contracts. Okay, you got to remember a minimum contract from a veteran from overseas is going to cost you a lot less than a rookie first-round draft pick at this point. You see what I'm saying? So some teams may be in a situation to where they may be better off going and getting a veteran for cheap from overseas. Some teams might be better off continuing to build through the draft. But I think this puts the Indiana Fever in a very peculiar situation because I think you have to do what's in the best interest of the franchise long term. And as much as some people love Kelsey Mitchell, if we're taking the emotion out of it.
Now here's where the salary cap math gets truly insane. And this is the part that most fans don't understand until you actually map it out on a spreadsheet. Let's say the Fever decide to keep Kelsey Mitchell on a max deal. Here's what their cap situation looks like for 2025. Caitlin Clark's second-year salary, minus $78,000. That's locked in, rookie scale contract. Aaliyah Boston's second-year salary, minus $76,000. Also locked in. Kelsey Mitchell max contract, minus $650,000 annually. Nalissa Smith is entering the final year of her rookie deal at roughly $75,000. That's $879,000 committed to 4 players. The total salary cap for 2025 is projected at $4.3 million, which leaves you $3.4 million to sign 10 more players, including your first-round draft pick, who's going to cost $480,000 minimum. You need to re-sign Lexi Hull, who's a restricted free agent coming off a breakout playoff performance. She's getting offers. You need to re-sign Katie Lou Samuelson if you want to keep that veteran three-point shooting. You need to bring in at least 2 more competent defenders because this team gave up 90 points per game in the playoffs. Run those numbers and you're looking at maybe $200,000 left for your final 4 roster spots. That's 4 players at $50,000 each. You know who makes $50,000? Overseas players who've never played in the WNBA. Undrafted rookies. Practice squad call-ups.
That they may take AZ Fudd. AZ Fudd's a good player and the Paige Bueckers connection, I guess. But our fam would be my number 1 pick. The Minnesota Lynx, Olivia Miles. I think this should be the shoe-in pick. Okay, you get Olivia Miles and you put her as starting point guard. You get Olivia Miles and you put her as starting point guard. I know you got Courtney Williams as stud, but I would take Olivia Miles. I I would take Olivia Miles. I don't know what Courtney Williams is going to command on the open market. She's going to get some good money. She's not going to get a max, but she's going to get some good money. But I would take Olivia Miles.
And this is exactly why some front offices are going to start viewing first-round picks as salary cap liabilities instead of assets. Think about what just got said there. The possibility that having a first-round pick might actually hurt your team because the mandatory rookie salary eats up space you could use on proven veterans. That's a fundamental shift in how WNBA team building works. In the old system, rookie contracts were your financial flexibility. You could draft a player, pay them $70,000, and if they contributed anything meaningful, you got incredible value. Now, a pick outside the top 5 is costing you $500,000 for a player who statistically has maybe a 30% chance of becoming a rotation piece by year 2. Meanwhile, you could sign a veteran who played in EuroLeague for $120,000 and get guaranteed production.
Flau'jae Johnson, I will 1,000% take over Kiki Rice. Now, the interesting thing with Flau'jae is, would the Chicago Sky take her at 5 to reconnect her with Angel Reese? Now, they had success at LSU, but we also know there was a bunch of drama that spilled over after, family involved. It was a lot going on. But I think that if you believe Flau'jae Johnson is good, is going to be the best prospect that you can get at that point in time, you take it, because there's no telling if you're even going to keep Angel Reese with a lot of the shenanigans that she was pulling. You got Lauren Betts that fell out of the top 5. Which I could see. I don't think she's all that. Raven Johnson going in the top 10. I'm not a Raven Johnson guy. I just don't.
So here's what the Indiana Fever should actually do, and this is where we separate emotional decisions from smart organizational strategy. You core Kelsey Mitchell in January 2025. You immediately start negotiating sign-and-trade packages with Phoenix, Seattle, and Minnesota. Your asking price is 2 first-round picks, one in 2026, one in 2027, plus a rotation player on a minimum contract who can defend. Phoenix might bite because they're desperate for backcourt scoring next to Diana Taurasi's final season. Seattle might bite because they just lost Breanna Stewart's prime years to injuries and need to capitalize on their window. You take those 2 future first-round picks, and you package one of them with your 2025 first-rounder to move up in this year's draft. Maybe you can get to pick 5 or 6. That's where Flau'jae Johnson might actually be available. Or maybe you target Kiki Rice from UCLA if you believe in her upside despite the inconsistent college production. The key is you're converting Kelsey Mitchell, a 28-year-old guard on an expensive contract, into multiple young assets that fit your timeline with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, who are both 22. You're building a sustainable contender, not mortgaging everything for a 2-year window. But here's the thing about that strategy. It requires the Fever to tell their fan base that they're prioritizing 2027 over 2025. And after finally making the playoffs for the first time in 7 years, after selling out every home game because of Caitlin Clark, after proving they can compete with the best teams in the league when healthy, that's a really hard sell. You're asking fans who just bought season tickets to watch you take a step backward in the name of long-term planning. And maybe that's not what you do. Maybe you look at the landscape and realize that the Connecticut Sun are aging out, the Las Vegas Aces are dealing with their own salary cap crisis after paying Ashaw Wilson, and the New York Liberty just lost their depth to free agency. Maybe the 2025 season is actually your best chance to win a championship before the league figures out how to defend Caitlin Clark. If that's your read on the situation, then you pay Kelsey Mitchell, you trade your 2025 first-round pick for win-now veterans, and you go all in. You sign Lexi Hull to a 3-year deal. You bring back Katie Lou Samuelson. You find 2 defensive-minded wings who can guard the Jewel Lloyds and Breanna Stewarts of the world. You fill out the bottom of your roster with minimum contract players who understand their role is to not screw up. And you bet that a starting 5 of Clark, Mitchell, Hull, Smith, and Boston with Samuelson as your 6th woman can win 40 games in a championship. That's a legitimate strategy, too. It's just a different risk profile. You're betting on health, on continued development from your young core, on Kelsey Mitchell maintaining her production into her late 20s. Those are reasonable bets. They're just not the bets I would make if I'm running the organization. Because here's what keeps me up at night, if I'm Kelly Krauskopf. What happens if you pay Kelsey Mitchell, you go all in for 2025, and you lose in the second round again? Now you've got no draft picks, no cap flexibility, an aging veteran who's owed money for 2 more years, and Caitlin Clark is heading into restricted free agency in 2027, where she could force her way to a bigger market if she's not happy with the supporting cast. That's a disaster scenario. That's how you waste a generational talent's prime years. Versus if you trade Mitchell now, even if it feels like you're taking a step back, you're accumulating assets, you're keeping your powder dry, you're positioning yourself to make the big move when the right opportunity presents itself. whether that's trading up for a franchise-changing prospect in 2026, or using your cap space to poach a disgruntled star from another team, or just slowly building through the draft while Caitlin and Aaliyah develop chemistry. The boring answer is usually the right answer in sports management. And the boring answer here is you trade Kelsey Mitchell, you take your medicine for one season of being merely good instead of great, and you set yourself up for a decade of contention instead of a 2-year window. But I want to hear what you think, because this is genuinely one of those situations where smart people can disagree. Are you team run it back and go for a championship in 2025, or are you team trade Mitchell and build for sustained excellence? And here's the harder question. If you're Kelsey Mitchell, how do you feel about this entire conversation? You just had the best season of your career playing alongside the most famous rookie in WNBA history. You proved you can be the second option on a playoff team, and now your reward is getting discussed like a trade asset instead of a franchise cornerstone. Does that change how you approach this offseason? Does that change what you're willing to accept in contract negotiations? Drop your take in the comments, because the Fever have about 6 weeks to figure this out before free agency opens, and whatever they decide is going to define this franchise for the next 5 years. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the follow-up when we break down where Kelsey Mitchell actually ends up and whether the Fever made the right call. Hit that like button if you want more salary cap breakdowns like this, because with the new CBA, every single team is dealing with some version of this problem. The Fever just happened to be the most visible example because of Caitlin Clark. But trust me, this is coming for your favorite team too.